Just going live, guys. Okay, here we are. Big buyer turn-offs. 5 property show this morning. 5 major viewing mistakes and really how to avoid them. What's your thoughts on this, Andrea? Good morning, by the way.
Good morning, Jim. Well, I think everybody puts so much thought into getting a property on the market that they sometimes forget about the viewing aspect of it.
Yeah.
So we've got hints and tips today to try and help everybody get that bit right as well. So as I say, you picked your estate agent and your photographs and your description and everything, you're really happy with it and you're happy with the price, and all that's left is to get through the viewings. So what can go wrong? Well, quite a lot actually.
I tell you what can go wrong? I think we should maybe saying, how do we get it right, rather than actually what could go wrong? Because, I mean, that's almost a foregone conclusion with most people when they do viewings, isn't it?
Yeah, and they think, oh God, I forgot to put the washing up liquid away, or, I've left something out, and, or I forgot to put the dog.
Let's be honest, newsflash, your estate agent sometimes has no idea how to do a viewing properly. That's the experience I've had over the years, or the 30 years I've bought and sold property. Just as an investor, the viewing experience for some of them is absolutely diabolical.
Yeah, I've been to some viewings myself, and the estate agents really just sort of opened the door and then let you wander around, and given no guidance at all.
Do you know what the electricity
even been there?
Do you know what's round the corner? Do you know what that is? Could you phone the office on Monday? They might be able to help you. Wait a minute, you're the person showing me around. You should know this.
Yeah. There was an amazing, funny sketch, actually. I think it was David Walliams that was in it about he was an estate agent doing a viewing, and he said, and this is the chimney, and this is the door. This is how you get into the house. And then they'll say, oh, so what's the EPC on the property? Oh, I don't know. I'll find that out and I'll let you know. And it was so funny.
This is where, and I'm not knocking anything, but this is where people actually sometimes say to me, I'd love to be an estate agent. I just love looking at houses. I'm thinking, whoa, that has nothing to do with anything that we do. That's the last thing. It's all about negotiating and getting the best deal for the client and getting the best result in terms of what they want and their lifestyle choices. And what I mean by that, really, in the lifestyle choices is where are you right now? Where do you want to be? And how we're going to get you there? That's ultimately it. And a lot of people actually think, well, surely it's just selling their house. No. It's the disruption it causes within somebody's lifestyle choice. It's sometimes possibly it's a breakup. It's sometimes possibly it's they're moving in together with their partner. It's sometimes possibly they've got children, and another one's on the way. It's like, could you not just hold off till we get a bigger house? No, I'm coming in 9 months whether you like it or no. That sort of thing. Or sometimes the children have flown the nest and it's time to downsize. So it's an emotional thing. It's very, very emotional, and it's very, very stressful. So the point of what we're going to talk about today and the overall picture is quite minutiae in terms of it's quite micro in terms of macro, which is the bigger picture. The bigger picture is obviously what we've just discussed. It's how we get you from A to B in the most seamless way possible, but gives you the maximum amount of return in that process. So we're going to talk about this. This is big buyer turnoffs, 5 major viewing mistakes and how really to avoid them. You've picked your estate agent. You're probably really chuffed with your photographs and descriptions. Make sure you're doing video as well, by the way, and not silent movies. Get somebody that's a proper presenter that can talk to the public and that can actually engage with them and know what to convey to the buyer on the other side, because literally they're just looking at your phone. I was showing a calculator. It's because I've got my phone on my Instagram and I've got TikTok running at the same time as well. Everybody's got my phones. As well as 8 other channels that we're broadcasting on Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook.
I thought that was your phone from 1981.
Oh, I love this. I've got to say, I love this. This is my accountant's calculator. And with me being an accountant, I'm in my element, just the big numbers and the big buttons on here. Anyway, that's another thing. Somebody actually said to me the other day when I was sitting in their house, says, do you know, I can't believe we've got an accountant sitting in front of me. It actually understands how to do marketing to the extreme in terms of property. He says you don't get that sort of combination between an accountant and world-class marketing or digital presentation. Okay, so and your home is priced to precision. So now that's all that's left is really to do the viewings. So what could actually go wrong? Well, quite a lot, actually. There are plenty of pitfalls to avoid when your viewers arrive, for example. And some of the most common, which we're going to talk about today in a bit more detail, is getting your welcome wrong and making buyers feel really uncomfortable. That's a biggie. I've seen that happen right in front of my eyes. Underselling your rooms by not showing off their purpose and also their potential. Leaving old stains exposed to cast doubt on about hidden nasty surprises. And we're not talking about the stains you're talking about. Let's get off that. We're talking about looking at the ceiling.
Your dirty mind.
You said it. Well, you never said it. I knew that's what you were. I knew that's what you were on about. Anyway, to cast doubt of any early hidden surprises, hiding the best points of your home under cover of darkness and disorder, and ignoring unsavoury smells and hoping your viewers actually won't notice. You know, the big one for me was always when I walked into a house, I knew straight away that the smell of the dog was overwhelming. And literally, it had been for a year and a half for another estate agent, and they kept asking that estate agent, "Why is my house no selling?" As soon as they brought me in to look at it, I just walked in the door and go, "Wow!" It was like a biff in the chops. It's like that smell was overwhelming. And I said, every single time somebody walks in here, that's what they're going to get. They're never going to get rid of it. That's what their expectations are. It's the same when people smoke in their house as well. It's very rarely get it. But I remember we had a case like that where somebody had actually constantly smoked in their house. And every person that walked in the door after that, after I had this conversation, says, "Look, go out the back, see if you can get rid of this." And they just didn't listen. But every person that walked in immediately said to themselves and said to us, and the feedback was, "We're never going to get rid of this smell. It's going to be ingrained into the floorboards, into the walls, and all over the place. So we're never going to get rid of the smell. So we don't want to take on the house just because of that." So that's a big turnoff. As your estate agent, it's really our job for an estate agent to strip away the potential for negative comments about your home, leaving only the positive vibes that buyers can't really resist. So this is what this is all about this week, and you need to avoid the biggest viewing mistakes before anyone comes to actually visit. So the wrong welcome is a classic for me, Andrea. You know, what's your thoughts on this? This could go pear-shaped for anybody.
Yeah, well, interestingly, I've had this conversation with about 3 different people in the last 2 weeks. And say, although you know your home better than anyone else, you're probably not the best person to sell it. But it's got nothing to do with you personally.
Yeah.
Buyers are too polite to tell you what they actually think about your home, but they'll tell us. You know, and their honest reactions are priceless in giving you constructive feedback and tweaking and the selling strategy.
Mm-hmm.
So the best option is to go out of your home, so it's a completely calm environment when your viewers arrive, giving them the freedom to roam and comment without tiptoeing around you. If going out isn't an option, open the front door with a warm welcome and then leave your agent to conduct the tour so you're not tempted to hover or waffle. We've had hoverers and wafflers, haven't we?
This is one where if you're going to hang about and say, "Oh, well, I'll just chip in now and again and be able to tell you, the estate agent, about the property and anybody wants to ask any questions," please do not do that with your estate agent, because basically you're putting them off their mojo. What we're trying to do and what we're trying to achieve is when this buyer walks in the door, we know most things about them because we've asked all these questions beforehand in the qualification process. So when they walk in the door for the first time, we know exactly how to engineer them down that path. And when I do that, it is a windy path to get them back on track in order to get an offer potentially out of them. This is called the straight line method, the straight line technique. This is actually just keeping people on the path. When you jump in and say, "Oh well, round the corner," it's like it just takes them completely off that path, and you're right to the very start again. It's almost like snakes and ladders. When a viewer when an owner jumps in and actually says that, it literally just puts right back down to the bottom, and you're having to start all this lead up again and lead somebody down to where the result you're wanting to. So for me, it's a big no. You're either going to do the viewing yourself, or you're going to get the estate agent to the viewing. It's going to be one or the other. There is no halfway house here. You shouldn't be doing that as a seller and hovering over your estate agent or saying you're sitting in the, I'll sit in the other room. It's just you're within earshot every single time. And the buyers feel really, really uncomfortable at the owners in the house, and they don't want to speak freely about the house at all. Therefore, you'll not get the feedback you need if that house isn't selling, and then you'll just be frustrated as a seller because that's happened. And guess what? It's your fault for hanging around. Go away. Go for a coffee. Take the dog a walk if you've got. Take the dog a walk if you've got one. Everybody loves dogs, but they want the distraction of the dog when they're there. Plus the fact somebody might have allergies.
Yeah. So when you are at home for a viewing, because there are some cases where people cannot leave if they're disabled or whatever, keep the TV off, play some light background music, and find something to do. So you could be preparing food in the kitchen or helping the children with their homework, whatever it is, try and keep the activity to one room, and obviously try and keep noise levels down as well. Launch days and evenings can be a really convenient way to get out of the house, so that allows multiple viewings. So talk to your agent about whether they're right for your home. So if we've put on a property and you're getting loads and loads of inquiries for it and lots of people in a buying position that are able to get a viewing, we're not going to go to the house over 10 days with one viewer every day. We want to get those 10 viewers in one day and do back-to-back viewings. And then hopefully it's probably going to go to a closing date. And
back-to-back is actually perfect. I mean, to create that activity, because it's one person's going out, one person's coming in, and they can see each other. So they know there's a good amount of activity. So you don't actually need to say, look, there's a lot of activity in this house, because literally you're doing back-to-back viewings. Also, the other thing is as well is consider about just going on holiday. We've had a lot of clients actually have just went on holiday, and while they're on holiday, we've just phoned them and go, we've got an offer at so-and-so, what's your thoughts? And great stuff. Okay, we've got a deal done, but we've managed to get more as a result of that. That's another story in negotiation. It's like, we've got you more than you expected. But that's another story. But it's a lot of the times, people actually just go on holiday and just leave us to get on with and enjoy themselves. What is the point? Why are you there? Why are you hovering about if that's the case? Why? Here's the old expression, why have a dog and bark yourself? That I'm
That's very true.
And yes, you can teach an old dog new tricks.
Yeah. I mean, one of the other things that I always remember, with viewings is that a lot of people who are really interested in the house and are ready to go, they're ready with their offer. And they'll say, I'm thinking about this offer. Would you like me to, discuss anything with the vendor? And they'll say, oh, right, well, just go home. We'll have a wee talk and we'll come back. So you're ready to phone them. Basically when you get back to the office, you've got everything just all set up. If the homeowner is hanging about, that's not going to happen. So you don't really want, your favourite saying is time kills all deals. If you don't get somebody there and then, you might lose them because they might be going on to view another property.
The other classic as well was some people actually stand out the back garden and try to negotiate, and it's like, well, the neighbours, they could be tuning in. For all you know, their window could be open. So you need to find the right area to. So when you're taking someone around, what you should be doing is where you want to start, the welcoming approach, make sure there's no muddy boots or anything like that, because that can be really difficult. When somebody walks in the door, it makes them feel really uncomfortable in the fact that they could be spreading mud into your house. So make sure you've got foot covers if it is an environment like a farm environment or countryside environment, so that doesn't happen. Because they don't really, take off my boots. Okay, that's fine. But then how are you going to get out the back door? It's the hassle of that. So work that out at the very beginning. There's an easy way to do that, and that's another story. And then you're walking them through. You know what way to walk them through that whole process, and you know where you need to end. Now, if it's a fantastic sunny day and it's knocking out the park out the back garden, then you end up in the back garden when you finish. And that's where the wow factor and the feeling comes in, and the dopamine hits all happen at the same time. And the buyer feels absolutely fantastic about themselves and just says, this is the one. This is the one for me. Because you've created that environment for them. If it's not that good outside, then make sure you've got the wow factor inside and end up in the room that is going to be the wow factor for you. It could be the living room with that big massive bay window overlooking out to these countryside views. It could be the kitchen, which has possibly got the seating area across to the side, the dining area as well, and then obviously the breakfast bar with the kitchen off as well, and finished at an extremely high standard. That's the sort of thing where people can see themselves inside and where their family's all round about them and then engaging with everybody else as well at the same time. That's what people buy. They're buying emotion. They're buying how it makes them feel. They're buying how it makes them, they think their family feel, and their extended family, their friends will feel as well, because that's what excites them. Your room being 5x4 isn't make a damn bit of difference, because I can find a room 5x4 somewhere else, wherever that is. It's people are not. It's not what they don't buy. They don't buy bricks and mortar. They buy what it's going to give them, the lifestyle it'll give them, the opportunities it'll give them, the chances it'll give them for them, their family, and the environment that they'll grow up in for their children. That's what they're buying. So that's why it's important to understand that. This comes out as well then to the rooms with a roll. I mean, spare rooms can be easily end up as glorified cupboards and dumping grounds. Listen, you're talking to the expert of this. I've had this loads of times. You've probably had this as well, Andrea.
You can't see the other side of my camera at the
know.
moment.
Listen, it's like this for me as well. No, I'm in a studio. I'm in the newsroom. The people on Instagram and TikTok actually see the green screen behind me, whereas nobody else obviously sees that. The room is definitely, don't let it be a dumping ground. Piling high with suitcases, unused furniture and picnic stuff. Start to get rid of that and decant all that stuff. It's fine if you're staying put, but not if you're actually selling. Even with the benefit of floor plans, nothing beats a room which has a clear purpose. So what was your dream when you first moved in? That's what you've got to think about. What was your dream when you first moved in and you saw that room? Can you stage it like that now? Does it have a purpose? Awkwardly arranged or too much furniture can block sight lines. It can also shrink the rooms as well and make it difficult to walk around. Think effortless flow rather than obstacle course. Classic for me is in a living room where somebody puts a big, massive rug right in the middle of it. And there's just a wee bit to the side of the rug. And most people feel uncomfortable, buyers anyway, walking right over your rug. So they end up going up the side, between the rug and the suite, the couch or the settee. So they end up doing that, and it makes it an obstacle course. Plus the fact when you take a photograph, sometimes rugs are overpowering in the photograph and they actually don't show the right spatial awareness because it's only two-dimensional in the photograph. So it's sometimes better just to roll up the rug, put it aside the now, take the photograph, and possibly put it back down. But I would ideally, if it's overpowering, take it away. It might be a special rug that somebody's had from overseas that they've shipped in, and it's like it might be special to them, but it won't be special to anyone else. So get it stored away. You're taking it with you anyway. You're moving home. The object of the exercise is to sell your house, to get somebody to buy it, not to show them your knickknacks and your fixtures and fittings and your furniture and your rugs and all the rest of it. No, nobody wants to see stuff like that. That's your personal choice, your personal taste. So make it as decluttered as possible, and dare I say neutral. Some people have amazing talents for designing and presenting a room, and that's fine. But these people are few and far between. Not everybody's like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
interestingly, there's I noticed a property, not in Fife at all, it's actually in Perth.
Yeah.
But I was looking at it, and they had one of these quite amazing 3D sort of model floor plan things, and you can zoom and you can go right in it and you can walk right through it. And you can, one of the pictures from the top landing was actually, it showed you a photograph at the top of the stairwell,
Yeah.
which was one of these panoramic wedding pictures taken from a distance of all the wedding guests. And you could literally zoom right up to the people's faces on it.
Yeah.
Now, and one of the other things I noticed was, you're talking about small rooms. The third bedroom in that property was, I don't know whether it's being used for a business or what, but it had a whole wall of shelves, and the shelves were packed with these collectibles in their boxes still, and a 3D printer on full display. Now, that is not something that we would
Yeah,
advise.
I wouldn't be shown things like that. I've often said to someone, I know your garage looks absolutely amazing, but there's no way I'm going to walk into this garage with a video and actually show people what's in here. And as well as sometimes I will actually make sure that I glide by something that is of value, so they don't actually see it, or it's taken out the photograph. Yeah, definitely. I think that's key here. So it is about making sure that you don't block the sight lines, you don't shrink the room, and you don't make people feel difficult to walk around, and it's not an obstacle course for them. I mean, changing the layout of your rooms as well from your photographs can disorientate buyers. So make sure the photographs actually reflect what the room is. We've never ever had this. I've never had this where somebody's walked into one of our properties and actually said, you know, the photographs make it look better than what it is. Now, I've had that the other way around, and the reason I've had it the other way around is when I've gone to see properties, or I've taken buyers around properties, because I sometimes take buyers around properties for investment purposes, and they then say the photographs actually look better than the property itself, because the property is really run down and the photographs have almost misled them. And in these instances, in that case, what happens is most buyers go away then feeling that they don't trust you anymore as an estate agent. And that's the beginning of the end when that happens. That's why most buyers that I have that come to me that watch my videos are quite happy to buy a property from the video and make the offer on the property from the video without even walking in the door. Because they know straight away what I say is really what the property is, and I won't say anything untoward. It will mislead them into thinking it's something better than it is at that point in time. And the trust has to go a long way, and it's the only thing you could ever give away as an estate agent. Once it's gone, it's gone. You know, it's you, it has it personally. And if no one trusts you from then on because it's you that's done it, then that's the beginning of the end. You may as well just pack up your shop and you're no longer an estate agent. It just doesn't happen. Some are actually still around, but you know, they just hope on numbers and the fact that other people will just we'll get somebody else. There's 170,000 households in Fife. There's 370,000 people, so I only need maybe 100 people to believe me at that point in time. But they kind of leave a legacy of mistrust from people I've used them before. It's like that's just no one. So it's important to do that. I know what you said about the Matterhorn tours. I mean, that's what they are. I'm not a big fan. I'm just not a big fan of them at all. I find it very clunky, very difficult to use, and it puts me off the journey of actually viewing a property because I've got that available. That's what I feel about the Matterhorn tours, and that's why I don't use them, because of that. Because if I get that feeling and it just switches me off, I'm time poor because I make decisions about where I put my time, and so if I'm time poor and my buyer potentially will be time poor and cash rich, the last thing I want to do to that buyer from further afield that I don't know yet is to actually put that person off at and put another hurdle in their way of actually having to maneuver around this clunky tour of just clicking on circles on the floor and arrows that might go certain ways and not being able to see properly. I would, walk through videos with proper presentation and proper talk-ups is what I really want to see.
Mhm.
Don't just show me the property. Tell me why I want to come and buy this property. Just tell me what's in the area as well, because I have no idea what this is and where this is. But I tell you what, if you sell it to me right, I'm coming to view it. I might even buy it before it even come to view it. That's the sort of thing. So it's my own personal experience and my own thought processes that I go through and think to myself, well, if it's like that for me, and I'm pretty disciplined and pretty precise and process driven about what I want out of viewings and what the result I want as well, I then engineer everything to be so efficient in order to be like that, and to follow that process. So if you're still trying to figure out what to do with an underused space, there are some great ideas online with purposeful styling, including the 29 spare room ideas from House and Garden, and the small space room ideas from IKEA, which are both really full of valuable tips. So you can easily Google that online. What are the worrying signs that we've got to look out for, though, Andrea?
Right, well, of all the questions you want viewers to ask, what's that stain isn't one of them. Yellow watermarks and black spots cast doubt and suggest nasty surprises, which can delay sales and give buyers second thoughts.
Yeah.
In short, they're bad news, so take a good look around your home to see if anything needs attention. So if you look up at your ceilings and under the windows for signs of leaks, fix the source and then make good the decor with an oil-based stain blocker before touching up the paintwork. You would want to check for small pools of water or traces of limescale or rust under your sinks, baths, the boiler, hot water tank if you've got one, and also your radiators. You would also want to inspect your grouting and sealant for mould, particularly behind where you've stored bottles and dispensers where water can gather. And also look at the bottom halves of the ground and lower floor walls for signs of damp, like blistering paint and black spots. I would also say one of the other ones is wallpaper on ceilings. If you see that starting to come away, there's gaps in between, little bulges where it's joining.
Yeah.
I would always say if there's wallpaper on a ceiling, why? What are they trying to hide? Has there been a problem there before?
Yeah. Most of the wallpaper on ceiling is because there's been cracks in the original lath and plaster of the horsehair. And they can't get rid of these cracks because they're there permanently. And that's really to cover it up.
Yeah. So they would say, to make doubly sure that you've caught everything, it's good practice to ask a friend with a BDI over to tell you what they notice. And by getting everything straight before calling the estate agents, you'll set the stage for a higher valuation and selling price.
Yeah.
That'll
be me then, the friend with the BDI, because
BDI or me.
What I do.
I always notice things.
I would get rid of that, and I would do something about that, and I would do something about this. But there is sometimes I'll actually say to people, look, if you start to paint that, it's going to highlight everything else that's not painted in your house. So the issue here is which one's going to be more beneficial. And in some cases, I actually say to them, don't do it. Don't paint that, because it will just highlight everything else that's not painted.
Yeah. Personally, I would rather buy a house that hasn't been freshly painted. Yeah. So I would know that nothing awful's been trying to be hidden.
Yeah, possibility. That's another way of looking at it. For me, it's like, I kind of look at the freshly painted house as like you've made an effort. So you've probably made an effort about everything else as well. So there's two ways of looking at it. But you're absolutely right. I mean, when you look at the things like the ceilings and the windows and the signs of the leaks and everything, all these wee things mount up over a period of time when somebody goes around the property. And just as you're getting one step forward with the positive aspects about your property, that almost puts you 2 steps back every single time. So it's easy. It's easy for you as a seller. Now, this is actually key here. This is a key point, I would say. This is why you get an estate agent round, and you get them to walk round with you and actually understand this. The estate agent's seeing your house for the first time like a buyer would see it. I often get a lot of sellers coming to me and saying, well, I'll do this and I'll do that and I'll do this and I'll do that and I'll do this and I'll do that after the event. Because I say, don't tell me anything until we go round. And then when we sit down, they say, oh, I've got to do all this. And I'm like, well, why would you need to do that? Because I never even saw any of that. And I know what I'm like when I look at a property. I'm pretty vigilant about everything. But as a buyer, I never saw that. It's because the seller lives in it day to day, so they see every nook and cranny and everything, every single thing that's wrong with their house. That's normal human behaviour. But as a buyer, I don't see that. So often, unless it's a major thing, that it's like just leave it. It's fine. It's okay. You don't need to do anything about it at all. For example, you often get, these are classic one you get all the time. Really, is should I change the kitchen? And it's like, if your kitchen's really, if it's fine and easy to use when somebody just moves in, some more or less, more than likely, a lot of the times, everybody's ready to rip it out and put a new one in that they like. And I've seen that where somebody's put a brand new kitchen in and the buyers come in and just ripped it out, just thrown it away, a brand new kitchen. I'm like, what? That happened with mine. I refurbed one of my houses. I then put it on the market. The person bought it, and then I saw them decanting everything in a skip the following week. I'm like, what? I spent $5,000 on that thing. So it's probably my experience, my personal experience of the number of properties I've got and the number of properties I've bought and sold over the years, myself personally, that I understand how the buyer thinks and what they would be doing and what is acceptable and what's not acceptable. I think that's the experience. It's my knowledge is based on experience and wisdom. It's and trial and error. So by someone getting me in the door and talking to them, then what's happening here is they're not needing to make the mistakes I made. I think that's key. That's where value's added. That's where value's added. So when I say to a lot of people about, if you're just wanting to sell your house, doorsteps.co.uk will do it for 99 quid. But if you want to add value in there and actually make sure you're going to get the right end result, which could be tens of thousands of pounds extra than you would get trying to do it yourself or any other estate agent trying to do it, then you'll probably be using me. Well, you will be using me. And if you don't use me, well, I've not done my job right or you're crazy.
Yeah. And there's very few people out there that don't need that extra value. I have heard some people say, well, we don't want to be greedy. So, if somebody comes along and makes an offer that's not quite at the home report value, I'm quite happy to take it. Yep. I thought, really?
I do get that statement a few times where people say we don't want to be greedy. I says, that's fine. But you're not being greedy. What we're doing is we're finding the true market value for your property. Look at it this way. If I was to take £10,000 out of your pocket right now, would you say something about it? Absolutely. So why would you then not want to get that extra £10,000 for your property? It will give you better choices going to where you're going. That could possibly pay for your kitchen or your bathroom. It could pay for upgrades that you always wanted that you never. That could pay for your holiday, because it's tax-free money because it's your own house. It's no taxable. It's not. There's no capital gains. So that could pay for your lifetime holiday that you always wanted. That could easily pay for maybe part of the deposit on a first-time buyer for one of your children. So it's not.
It pays for your estate agent and your conveyancing.
Yeah, it's not. Well, I usually typically say that to somebody. Basically what my objective is to cover all your costs and give you cash back in the exercise. So you're literally getting me for nothing in the process. And what I've done right now when I walked in the door is added so much value to this in terms of what you're doing. That's almost the fee it's chargeable right now that I'm about to charge you. So you're literally getting me for nothing for all that time on. And that's why most people just come back to me on referral and just phone them up and say, Jim, I'm ready to go. I had it the other day. A landlord just phoned me up and says, Jim, I'm ready to put my house in the market. Great stuff. Send your photographic ID across. We'll get something sent over to you electronically, get the paperwork signed and get the ball rolling. That's it. It's quick as that. Because the decision's been made. They know who they're going to be using. And if you're in Fife, and you don't use us, then I could only feel sorry for the person because they probably lost thousands of pounds at the end of the transaction that they could have actually saved. They probably could have saved money in the process as well in terms of what they were doing by getting referred to the right people in terms of mortgage brokers, in terms of conveyancing solicitors, because it's all people that I've used over the years and then I've reused in terms of insurance companies as well for buy-to-let. you know, I used to have a big insurer, and then I changed, and I cut my buy-to-let premiums by a third. That's a huge amount of money. And yet, there's a lot of people with that big buy-to-let insurer, and I'm with another one now who's just as big, but they've actually given the same amount of cover, and so it's still a third cheaper. So it's better in your pocket, this money, than someone else's pocket. So get that out of your head. If you don't think about the logic of you, I don't want to be greedy. I know that's your personality style, and I really appreciate that, and that's really nice of you. But it's our objective to get you the best price possible, to give you more choices in terms of what you want to do. So,
and I just confirm that this is not vodka and Coke, by the way.
Okay. So, you know, going back to the worrying signs about things like the pools of water and traces of limescale, the grout and the sealant in the bath and all the rest of it. You know, another one I did was the person says, I've got a contractor coming in to change my ensuite shower room. It's going to cost me £7,000. And I went, what? And you're selling it. There's nothing wrong with the shower room. Literally, you're needing to get a handyman in to change the grout it and actually take the sealant out and reseal it, and it'll be fine. This house will sell, no bother. It was sold 5 days within it going on the market for a record price, actually, and they never actually changed that. So they saved themselves £7,000.
Excellent.
So that's the type of things that you've got to your estate agent should add. That's adding value, because literally I've just saved them £7,000, and that was nowhere near the cost to sell the house. So they literally did get me for nothing and got cash back in the exercise. And that's the key here, where your estate agent can add that true value in the transaction and in the process as well. The other one I've got to think about is the darkness and disorder. A major block to a home being sold is expecting buyers to see past any chaos that greets them on their viewing. So what do I mean by that? Well, while some have vision, many actually don't. And you could lose time and money over things that could be sorted pretty quickly and very cost effectively. The classic example is the overstuffed cupboards in the kitchens, hallways, bedrooms, and it makes the homes look really burst to the seams. So remove anything that doesn't fit and that you don't need right now. Even consider getting rid of all the furniture that you're not going to take with you now, and just get all your new furniture now for this house. Don't look at it like, oh, I'll get all this new stuff for my new house. Get it now, because it makes your existing house look very, very attractive with the new furniture. Then just take it with you.
Or you might decide you don't want to move after all. You only needed a new suite.
Possibly. And then our job is done if you don't want to move, because ultimately that's what we're trying to do. People, we're trying to help people manage their life as it happens, and sometimes that does actually happen when you walk in the door and you pitch it to them and they actually think, no, I don't want to move now. I had that in Upper Largo. Put the house in the market. They were adamant. Qualified them, requalified them, made sure they were making the right decision, and this was the right decision for them. We had all agreed, yes, it is the right decision for us. And then almost within 2 weeks, after getting all this activity and getting everybody through the door and potentially getting offers, which we did get, which were really, really good and allowed them more choices, they actually phoned me up and says, we're taking the house at the market. We've just decanted the whole place, and actually we love it now. They're just falling out of love with it because it was just overpowering.
Yeah.
Everything round about them, it was just overwhelming. And they said, we'll love it now because we decanted it. So thanks very much, Jim. We really appreciate your help and your time and efforts. And the job was done. That's the point.
Yeah. I think when a house is really, really cluttered, and I do still see it in some sales, photographs and things for properties. There's boxes stuffed on top of wardrobes.
Yeah.
There's things hanging on the back of doors, under the beds, or you can see everything all pushed under the beds. It's just that if it gives the impression that if there's not enough room for the current owners to have everything stored away, then there's not going to be enough room for
them.
My clutter.
Yeah, and I do appreciate that. That's what I do. And what I say to most people is, if you've got a garage, get everything in the garage and just pack it high. Because it makes the house look livable and it makes it look spacious inside and decluttered, and it makes it look nice and clean and tidy and straight lines of sight, nobody cares about the garage because there's always an expectation your garage is always going to have your junk in it. No one really ever puts their car in the garage. It's where all their junk goes. You know, this running machine that I was going to use, it goes in the garage. The exercise bike I was going to have, I bought on a whim, it went in the garage and it's still there. The second freezer I had, in case there was a nuclear disaster and I had to buy thousands of food, even on Christmas Day, and the fact that the shops are closed for one day, but I've got to fill this whole refrigerator in the garage in case we run out of food over Christmas Day. That sort of thing. Everybody expects that to be in your garage anyway. So when they open the door and say it's really jam-packed, they go, yeah, kind of like my garage anyway.
Yeah.
So that's a really good tactic.
Yeah, if you're going to be moving, people expect you to probably be already packing some stuff away into your garage anyway.
That's where the expectant is. That's where you don't want to have it sitting in all the cupboards and sitting under your beds. If you can decant it into the garage. So it's a really good point.
Yeah.
The mucky windows does it for me as well, and closed curtains that actually block the light out. So fling open your drapes and polish your panes and let the sunshine in. Grubby flooring is another one for me, and grimy bathrooms. Greasy light switches, which people don't realise, you know, the dirt around the light switch from the kids and stuff like that. And then all the sides of the doors, where you've opened the door rather than actually touch the handle, and it just gets dirty over a period of time. Just get a bit of Jif or Sif or whatever it's called now, and just rub that back and get all these wee greasy bits off, and make it look nice and fresh and bright. And the door frames can, you know, as I said, make the perfectly good fittings look old and worn out, but a deep clean can revive the whole lot of that. Here's what I think about outside. Take any garden junk to the tip. Do it now. And treat overgrown lawns and beds to a weekend of weeding and pruning and mowing. Listen, if you've not got the time to do it, pay someone to do it. Just get a handyman round, a handy woman round, handy person round, and get them to help you out to get this done. If you're feeling stuck around clearing the clutter, check out programs like Tidying Up by Marie Kondo, and also Getting Organised with the Home Edit. Both on Netflix, actually. So these are both on Netflix for lots of ideas and inspirations to do it. My worst bugbear, Andrea, is the next thing, is the unsavoury smell. Very, very emotional, isn't it, when you walk in the door?
Yeah.
It's like, you may as well just punch them in the face right now, you know, rather than actually let you see that. It just, the smells sometimes are overpowering in some people's houses. What can we, you know, what sort of things we need to watch out for?
Yeah, well, I mean, every home has a smell. You can't get away from it, but you can just make it a bit more pleasant. Some smells can send buyers running. So we'll have a look at the nasty niffs and how to send them back in to start with. So if smoking's allowed in your home, ban it from now until you move out. Absolutely. Unless the smell is deeply ingrained, you can usually eradicate it by venting your home for a few weeks.
For a few weeks, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you've got carpets, you maybe want to give the carpets a wash, curtains, give them a steam clean.
Carpets and cartons and cartons and curtains. Carpets and curtains. It's like, what's all that about? Tongue-tied, my brain's in gear, but my mouth's no moving. You know, that, yeah, classic. I mean, these are all common sense things, but the problem with common sense is it's not that common.
Yeah, I mean, and if your in-house smokers are going outside to smoke, please dispose of your fag ends.
The butts, yeah.
Don't just ping them over onto the grass.
Put it in the plant pot at the side. Yeah,
that's horrible.
It's disgusting.
Yeah, because your back door will smell.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Yeah.
What about things like pets?
Obviously, we're non-smokers.
What do you do with pets?
Well, pets, the food bowls, litter trays, cages, fish tanks, you know, they can all kick up a stink. So you need to keep them clean.
Yep.
Nobody is saying, well, some people do say, look, get rid of the dog bedding, stick them out in your car for when the viewing's getting done. But, you know, it's your dog's home too. I think things can be, if they're kept really clean and smelling nice and tidy, you can keep them. Obviously, if you've got a great big cage for your dog in, you might want to dismantle that and put it away for the viewings. Anything
Get
else?
rid
You've
of
got cats,
shoes,
Jim.
shoes
What
at the
about
front
cat
door.
smells? What about
Shoes
cats?
shoes at the front door are a big thing, yeah. I mean, they're really stinky, so get rid of them.
Oh, yeah.
Trainers and stuff like that at your front door. I've got cats. Well, I've got 9 cats, and they don't have any. You don't really smell them. I mean, hopefully we don't. Fingers crossed. Because we wash all the covers and all the beds and everything on it. Well, Elaine washes.
Elaine does.
I'm like, what's wrong with it? It's like,
That's a royal we.
I'm no bothered. I'm no bothered about that. I'm okay. And then all of a sudden she starts washing everything, and the next minute our whole house stinks of Ariel or Persil or whatever it is. There's other brands available. Lavender or whatever smell you've got. It makes it quite emotive, and the fact that you instantly feel the place is fresh. Mm-hmm. So I know your pets don't like it, because I tell you what, it's even when she puts the beds back down and the covers, the cats just look at us and go, "What the hell?" It's like, this isn't my bed anymore. It doesn't stink of me anymore. It's really, it's like, and they take a wee while to try and settle back into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say that, I do have knowledge of cats, because I did look after plenty of them for many years. But if a cat is under stress or unwell at all, it may urinate or spray. Especially male cats will spray in corners to mark their territory. And if you've got like a laminate floor or a wooden floor, and cat pee gets down in the cracks, trying to get rid of that smell is awful.
That's why when I let my 9 out in the morning and open the door, Rocky gets put out straight away, because he just runs over to every single bush and goes, "That's mine, that's mine, that's mine," and just pees on everything. And it's like, he's almost like bursting at the seams. They just go, "I've got to pee on something." And then who's at the back of him? It's Tigger. Tigger's at the back of him, and Tigger's like, "I've got to get out as well, because I've got to pee on something as well." And then he goes at the back of Rocky and goes, "You thought that was yours, but it's mine," and goes and pees on it as well.
And I can pee a bit higher than you can.
It's mental. It's like, it's so comical watching the carry on. But if you do leave them in, that's what they do. They're just like, I need to do something. I need to mark my territory, because that's what they do. They've got nothing else to do. They don't go to a job. They don't think about the kids. They don't think about earning money or doing anything else. They just eat, sleep, pee, and then repeat the next day.
But we love our pets. But anyway,
absolutely.
Angela is actually saying, get rid of shoes at the front door, like you mentioned before. Kids' football boots, wellies are very whiffy. You're certainly right. See, when they hit teenage boys, the stink of their feet is just dreadful. So their bedrooms as well are going to need some attention. So that takes us on. Avoid musty bedrooms and humid bathrooms by leaving windows securely ajar. And keeping all internal windows open. Internal windows? Yeah, open before you head out for work. Have you got internal windows, Jim? What's an internal window?
I've got wee internal windows. So if you've got most UPVC windows have double secondary locks. So in other words, you can open your window just a slight ajar, and then you can just lock it up again, and there's just a wee space in between. Now I tell you what, the rest of our house is absolutely roasting. Sometimes I'll walk into the bathrooms and it's like Siberia. Because Elaine opens the windows all the time, and I've got to admit, the bathroom looks pristine every single time. It was like the day we bought it, but having it as Siberia all the time is really not what I want. So there's a point where we've got a fan that stays on almost permanently in that bathroom now, so it just takes everything out there, and the only time it goes off is if we switch it off at the top of the door, and that's why we do it. Because we want to make sure we don't have any of these things, because it's just horrible. Things like towels as well. A lot of people actually leave their damp, musty towels lying about, and that just it just stinks. It stinks after a while. Teenagers, we've all got them. You walk in their bedrooms and it's like, oh my God, it's like the cat's died in here. Like, oh geez, it's we all have, and we've all experienced it. We've all probably been there as teenagers as well. And you're just like, what do you mean I can't smell anything? It's like, God. It's like,
and you go into the rooms for a clear out, and you get a whole cupboard full of crockery from under the bed.
Have you got nose blind?
Yeah.
One
So,
whip from Jeff and it's away. And these adverts are bullshit, by the way. It's like, because I've sprayed trainers and everything with Febreze loads and loads of times, and that smell just does not change.
Just leave them at the front door, Jim.
You probably get a fox attacking them and think it's another wild animal.
So onto the kitchen now. So like kitchen bins, rotten fruit, dying flowers, they can all leave a bad smell. So you want to keep your eye and nose out on things to avoid unpleasant odours. Also in the kitchen, we've got the cooking, the curry, the fish, deep fried treats. Maybe save them for a Saturday or a Sunday night to give the place time, the air time to clear for your next viewings.
I've bought a few houses in the past where the kitchen, I could actually remember one vividly, and it just like, oh my goodness, I could feel it, I could smell it, it's almost clinging to me right now, where the whole kitchen was channel lined and it wasn't sealed properly. And there were massive fans of spices and curries and all the rest of it, and literally it stunk like that all the time you walked into that kitchen. You couldn't get it out. You would literally have to dismantle the whole kitchen and start again back with a bare wall, because it was ingrained into it with the spices and turmeric, and it's nice. It's nice to smell it when you're hungry, but when you're not hungry, it's not a pleasant smell at all, is it?
No. So I mean, this is fine if we're living in a nice detached property and we don't have very nearby neighbours. What if you were living in a semi-detached house or a flat and you've got a communal staircase and one of your close neighbours is a great fan of their spicy aromatic cooking? Can you fairly say to them, look, I've got viewers coming round, would you mind not having the curry tomorrow night?
Well, it's an easy one. It's a diplomatic one to do. And it's literally, I've got the house in the market. I'll have viewers coming round, and while I love your smells of your curries and that, because it's just so engaging, it's like I just feel like coming around to your house and having my tea. It might put them off. So, is there any chance we could, I could get the viewers round at this time? You could avoid that and then crack on after it. So, just tell them the times that they're coming round, or just work a plan where they're not going to be round at that time. That's really what it comes down to. Remember, it's a communal walkway, so it's not as if you're going to live in there permanently. You're in your house, but sometimes it is a bit overpowering. You don't want to have a house as well where your buyers come in the door and feel the need to go for a shower once they're finished viewing your house. I've had that on a few occasions. We've been a landlord where I've walked into the house, and after I've done the inspection, I've walked out the door and thought, I'm just going to need to delouse myself from top to bottom. I could actually vividly remember one in Glenrothes where I had to go back because I was covered in. I had to decant and stand out the back door and basically strip and then go into the shower because I was covered in fleas from their
I know,
guinea
you're
pigs.
making me itch, Jim.
Yeah, I was covered in fleas for their guinea pigs, but that's another story. So that's the sort of things you want to avoid. If you've got pets or animals, make sure they're out of sight, or you take them out, or you put them out the back garden to enjoy themselves. If you've got a house cat, nobody's going to bother about that. House cats don't have an opportunity to smell because they don't go outside.
No.
So they're just the same smell as the house, more than likely. So remember as well, too many fragrances, isn't there?
Yeah,
too many fragrances
that's
can
what I
be
was going to
overpowering. So avoid that awful factory overload by keeping any scented candles or reed diffusers to one or two complementing aromas. So what is the best smells in scented candles and that you think would be the best, Andrea?
Well, I mean, you could go seasonal. If you're selling your house in the spring, you might want some sort of something that's like spring fresh flowers.
Vanilla.
Vanilla.
Cinnamon.
Coffee, cinnamon.
Christmas
you can even
time,
get...
You get Christmas candle smell. Yeah.
Yeah, you do. I wouldn't have that in the summer, though.
Gingerbread. Gingerbread for Christmas in the kitchen. That sort of smell with a candle going. That's a great one for the kitchen. And when you come to the bathroom, it's obviously going to be fragrances like vanilla. But look out for the clues of what they're advertising on the television. And I mean, like things like, for example, and I talk about all the time, is Febreze. You know, that's a classic smell that everybody automatically thinks, because they're conditioned by the advertising that Febreze is doing, to say that when you walk in the door and you smell Febreze, it is fresh. You can't get away from that. That's conditioned and hardwired into you because of the advertising that they do. And it's the same with things like lavender. Everybody thinks of lavender and bouquets of flowers, that sort of flower freshness that you get in fabric softeners. So that's all conditioning as well on the adverts. And what I mean by that as well is, here's a classic example of conditioning. Would you ever use a chocolate toothpaste? No. You would use mint. But do you know mint was added to increase sales in toothpaste? That's all. It was nothing else to do with that, because no one used to buy toothpaste at all, because they didn't see it wasn't appealing. And when they added mint into it, immediately the sales rocketed through the roof. And that's why toothpaste is clearly associated with mint, and mint is associated with freshness. Yeah. So what do you think you should do with your house? Lavender, vanilla, cinnamon, gingerbread for the kitchen. All these different smells are obviously people's doing all that work and effort for you for advertising to tell the public this is how they should feel when they smell that smell is exactly what you should be using. Yeah. You don't need to spend thousands then on trying to work that out, because it's done for you already. All you need to do is pop down. The one classic for us is, when people say I can't afford to buy these beautiful candles and everything like that, okay. All you need to do is nip down to Home Bargains and buy the scented gels. They're about $1.50 for a pack of 3. I'm saying it used to be 79 pence, but I'm saying $1.50 now because of it, because I'm assuming inflation's doubled in value. Doubled it. So they're about $1.50 for a pack of 3. You just pull the back off the gel scent and you just stick it behind the door or behind a curtain so people don't see it. But the smell, the beautiful smell, the universal smell when they walk around the whole property, engaging with their senses and actually making them feel it's fresh. Works every single time.
Yeah. So you wouldn't want to go overboard on the fragrances, though, because people will then think, what are they trying to hide? So it goes past the stage of just trying to make your rooms fresh to actually trying to disguise.
Is that not just you?
What, smelling or making the disguise?
No, what they're trying to hide.
Yeah. I think one of the smells that is very difficult to hide is damp. I don't think anything can really mask the damp smell.
You can tell straight away when you walk in the door.
Yeah, and I think viewers or sellers should be really upfront with the viewers if there is damp, and obviously it's going to have been highlighted in the home report anyway. There's no point trying to deny that there's damp.
I actually got this question the other day where one of my sellers actually phoned me and I says, look, go to the preservation company, get a survey and all the rest of it. They came back and said, they say there's going to be tens of thousands of pounds to be spent on this. And I went, get a second opinion. And they went, but you referred them to me. And I went, no, but just get a second opinion because it's a big number. Because the second opinion might be different. No, they're not always right. They're there to generate business, and that's why they're coming around free to give you a survey. So they're not always right. They just recommend that that's what they should do. But in actual fact, the real, it's like all a damp preservation company is doing is preventing it. They're not curing it. Yeah. The cure could be in the fact that your drain pipe or your roofs need to be fixed, which is causing the damp in the first place. But all they're doing is saying, well, I tell you what, we'll strip all the plaster off 1 meter up. We'll put a membrane against the wall. We'll replaster it so it doesn't come through when it happens again. That's all they're effectively doing. They're not eliminating. They're just curing. They're just preventing rather than curing. That's why you get a second opinion. And I've had it before as well. And again, that's back down to experience. But I know straight away when I walk in a door if somebody's got damp, because I know the smell, because I've had so many houses. I've been in so many houses. I've had that problem with my own stock that I rent as my part of my business. As being a landlord, so I know straight away if it really is problematic damp, or if it's just actually condensation with black spot. It's actually mold, and it's just needing wiped with Domestos. There are other cleaners available.
Yeah.
But
And of
domestic
course,
is obviously the same. The
yeah,
right one is bleach.
yeah. And of course, the main thing with that sort of dampness it comes from poor ventilation,
Yeah.
which you do find a lot. You find it a lot in privately owned houses, but also in rented properties. They maybe haven't got a garden and people are drying their clothes in front of a radiator and they're not leaving a window open. So there are all lots of little signs that you can look out for.
There's loads and loads of, you've hit the nail on the head there, Andrea. There is a lot of occasions where you will walk into a house and think it's actually damp, when in actual fact it's not been ventilated properly. We often get this as private landlords. When a tenant complains of damp, they end up moving out, and then when they move out, there's nothing wrong. There's no damp at all, and it's because the lifestyle they've been leading and the way they've been living, and it's because they don't open any of the windows because they feel, oh right, but the house will get cold. It's like, but you still have to aerate the house. Remember, what we've done is we've gone from a house back 30 years ago, 40 years ago, where we never had double glazing, and all these sash and case windows allowed drafts to get through. The front door allowed drafts to get through, the letterbox allowed drafts to get through, and the floorboards allowed drafts to get through. And so
we all had chimneys.
The chimney as well. Everything used to let it get drafts, so you had proper ventilation, even though you had all your windows shut. But now we've got UPVC double glazing, which seals everything off. We've got airtight seals. We've got seals around the UPVC doors. We've got no chimneys anymore. Very few people have them. The floorboards are all sealed. The attics are all sealed off with insulation as well. So as soon as anything comes from a pot, with like steam from the kitchen or steam from the bathroom when you're having a shower or a bath, it goes right throughout your house if you leave the doors open, or it stays in that room as well. And if you've got nowhere else for it to go, it condensates onto your walls, it doesn't dissipate, and it causes the black spot mold, which everybody thinks is damp, and it's not. It's just condensation. It's needing properly ventilated in the house, or you need to have a dehumidifier if you don't want to open your windows in order to take all that condensation out. It has to go somewhere. In the past it did. Now it doesn't, because everything's almost hermetically sealed.
Yeah. Okay, so we're nearly at the end here. So
okay.
Have you got a lingering whiff, Jim?
Possibly.
Try white vinegar.
I don't. I've put deodorant on this morning.
Well, white vinegar actually cuts through odours naturally. So you can use it from wiping down furniture, washable walls and floors, to waving around a drenched cloth for a few minutes. And don't worry, the vinegar smell soon clears. And it leaves the air smelling fresh as well.
That's probably because it's a light acid. That's because it's a light acid, and it probably kills all the bacteria. It causes that in the first place, because the bacteria, it causes the smell. It's not anything else other than bacteria. That's why when mold appears, it stinks. When the mold's not there, it doesn't stink. It's a simple fact as that. So that's a really good handy tip. What's your final thoughts on this? Before we, I'll quickly scroll through TikTok and see if there's any questions. Or comments.
I mean, my final thoughts are really, you're not going to be saving any money by doing your viewings yourself. Yeah. So the agent doing the viewings could make you money.
Agent doing viewings, for me personally, it makes money all the time. Now, I do get people now and again say, oh, but I'm a great salesman, and insist that they're great at that. I goes, okay, then let's do assisted viewings then. So when we feel that we need to take a buyer round, because it's important for us to take them round, because we know they're on the cusp of making an offer, and we know we can take them down that path to make that offer, that's when you've got to let us do the viewings. And most people that insist on doing their own viewings say, yeah, okay, that makes sense. That makes absolute sense. Other than that, if we think you're okay, because there is some people out there that are really competent and really capable of doing the viewings and actually can do it in the right fashion because they learn the process. But there's about 75%, maybe 80% of people out there that think they're really good at doing the viewings, and they just give the whole game away. They overshare. They say far too much because they feel uncomfortable with the quiet times. They just say nothing. Everybody feels compelled to say something, so their mouth runs off, and then they start divulging stuff that they wouldn't divulge because it's in their brain, and their brain goes, quick, say something, anything. And they don't realize they're saying it subconsciously. And also unconsciously. That's why when it comes to negotiation, that's why when I go quiet, most people actually divulge what their true value is they're going to pay for the property without them actually knowing it. They've just told me.
Yeah. One of the other things that I meant to say earlier was that when an agent's doing the viewing, they are doing a controlled, they're keeping control of the
Yeah.
situation. So they're not going to have the buyers going off in different areas of the house. You know, the wife goes into the kitchen and the husband says, well, I'll just go and have a wee look upstairs. And, we don't let that happen. You know, it's somebody else's property. We need to look after it as well, make sure that everything's safe.
Absolutely.
But also, you know, that if they do that, then are they really that interested? Are they just in for a nosy? So we're vetting the buyers as well as we can, you know, and basically a viewing shouldn't take any more than 20 to 30 minutes, even on a fairly large property.
Absolutely.
So if it's taking longer than that, then, you know,
well,
you're talking too much.
The video walkthrough's done a huge amount of heavy lifting and work for you. So basically, all they're doing is coming round to say it's exactly what you said it was.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to look at the bits that are important to me over your video walkthrough. And everybody, more or less, everybody that comes through our door or talks to me about the video walkthroughs that we're doing says it's the closest thing to a viewing you'll ever get. So it's just like you've been in the property. It's just like you're taking me around there and then. So all I'm doing is going to say, you know, to see is it exactly what I saw it. So they're almost pre-qualified and ready to make an offer, unless there's something glaringly not obvious that they didn't know about it. So that's why they're coming round. So it's more, for me, it's more quality rather than quantity. It's not about busting everybody through the door. It's about getting the key people round there that are actually prepared to be able to pay the price that you're needing, or agree to the circumstances that you need. Like, for example, the entry date needs to be longer, it needs to be flexible, and possibly I don't want anybody with a mortgage in principle. I don't want anybody that's got a house to sell. You know, if that's your criteria as a seller, that's what we adhere to.
Yeah.
That's what we're matching. We're not just busting everybody through the door to make you feel good about the fact that I've had lots of viewers. Well, we're going to get a closing date. The excitement is building. And it's like, no, that's not what this is all about. Because then what happens is you're at a high, and then if it doesn't go according to plan in your mind, you crash and burn, and then that's when you go the emotional roller cycle. Your glucose levels goes up as well when that happens. Your glucose levels goes down, and that affects your whole mood, and that's why you end up feeling so stressed about the whole situation. So this is why it's so important about having quality rather than quantity, and that's what our system is designed to do. Final words on this, Andrea.
Oh, right. I thought I had done my final words already, but
yeah, that's fine. Okay, let's go and see. We've got a couple of things on TikTok here. Would sellers want to wait for people to sell their house? It's a difficult game? Yeah, well, okay, Barry. You know, sellers sometimes are happy to wait for somebody to sell their house, especially if we've seen it beforehand, because that's what we say to people. You know, you've registered, you've got a house to sell, but we need to see your house, because if you're going to buy one of our houses, I need to convince my seller that your house is sellable. I'm not saying that you need to use us. We just need to know what your house is like. We can't just take it on your word and then try and convince our seller to accept your offer if we've never seen your house. That's why it's important that we come round and see your house and value it and go, yeah, that's probably about the right price point. These numbers work in, so that should be a good match for you as a buyer and a seller. That's why we're doing this.
That's like the buyer's tiers, really, isn't it? You know, sort of a seller's tier 1, but their buyers, you know, people going in that haven't even got their property on the market yet are in tier 5. So, you know, the chances are that house could sell to someone that's in a more ready position.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. Tier 1 to tier 5. So tier 1 buyer is somebody that's a cash buyer, got the money in the bank, they're ready to go. Tier 2 for a buyer is somebody that's got their house sold, they're about to conclude, but they've got a mortgage in place as well. Tier 3 is somebody that's got their house in the market, they've kind of got the mortgage in place. Tier 4 is somebody that's actually preparing to put their house in the market. Now, that's exactly what you said there, Andrea. Most sellers want a tier 1 buyer, but most sellers are actually in tier 4 because they've not even got their house on the market. And you know, it's expectations, it's understanding where you are right now. Somebody actually said on TikTok, look at me, everyone, I'm Scottish. You're damn right.
I'm proud.
Look at me, everyone, we're Scottish. And you better believe it, we're the best.
And so's our housing system.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Well, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Let me see if there's anything else. nice cup of tea. Yeah, it's a nice cup of tea. Mint tea, actually. I drink mint tea.
Nice and fresh.
I don't touch caffeine personally. Caffeine it's not great for your mood and your brain. Actually, I was watching Daniel Amen, who's a brain doctor, and it's like, wow, he was talking about caffeine, how it affects your brain. And it's like, if you listen to what he says, he's a specialist in this area and how it affects your brain. You'll never touch caffeine ever again.
Just take a note of his name.
Yeah. Okay. Faye, yeah, absolutely. Morning. And you're absolutely right. Staging a house is really important as well. And somebody says, could you sell my house for me, please? If it's in the Fife area, yes, absolutely. If it's not in the Fife area, we've got loads and loads of videos online like this one, over 150 of them online on our playlist on YouTube, which is our Saturday morning shows. And it's things like how to declutter, how to do the perfect viewing, how to take the perfect photographs, all these different things that you could think of in the process of selling and buying a house, even advice for buyers, even advice for landlords, even advice for tenants. We've got all this and historical information, and it's timeless content that you could tune into and listen to, or even just read the article. The article literally takes you 4 minutes to read. The show is usually typically just an hour or under an hour or over an hour, and or the podcast as well. You can listen to it at your own leisure. There's a lot of people in here that obviously think I should be engaging with TikTok all the time at the same time. TikTok's just an emerging thing for us. If you want to listen in and tune in and ask questions, we'll cover them at the end. But the more priority is Facebook, it's LinkedIn, it's Twitter, it's Instagram. We're running streaming on live right now. Moisture mixing with the bacteria on the surface of the wall. Yep, absolutely, I would agree with that. And there's a huge amount of people on here, and that's it. That's us. Everything being asked, everything being discussed, everything being covered. Thanks very much for everybody for tuning in. Thanks very much for folks staying the course. Because to be honest, on every morning, it's no easy to sit there and engage for over an hour and listen to this, especially in podcasting that as well. But it's knowledge and information that people it might be essential for people out there that are looking to sell their house, and it's important. Because listening to this or taking this on board could actually save you thousands, or it could make you thousands as well at the same time. And that's us. That's probably the best advice I can give anybody, Andrea. Thanks for coming on the show this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Weekly update tomorrow. I'm going to talk about the price points and where the supply and demand of property prices actually in the Fife market are actually outperforming and underperforming areas. Tomorrow I'm going to look at the April sales stats for overall and have a look at that and make my judgments on where the housing market's going in the Fife area. And then Monday is 12:30. It's the Wealth Creation Show. We'll be doing that with I'll be doing that with Richard as well. So tune into that, and I'll be live on all the channels as well. Until next time, guys. Bye bye for now.
Bye bye.